Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Philip Woolgar, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. Like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go all the way up to today. And then we want to talk about these amazing things that you're doing, consulting with small businesses and helping them to launch and helping them to be successful.
All right, great. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to telling you my story.
Looking forward to our time together, bud. So where were you born?
Williams Lake, British Columbia, which is a very cold, small town in northern BC, Canada.
So where's BC, Canada on the map?
So we're on the west coast.
Okay. So we're by Vancouver area?
Yeah, Vancouver is the biggest city in British Columbia.
Okay.
And, yeah, our capital is Victoria on Vancouver Island. So it's lots of mountains. The Rockies go up there.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful country.
Cool. So how far from Vancouver is the city you grew up in?
6-hour drive north.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Just to give people an idea. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of the town you grew up. Did you grow up there, or were you just born there?
I was there till I was 12. Not many people have heard of it. It's just a mill town where every mill is closing down. So it started when I was a kid, and maybe it's not even there anymore. I don't know. I haven't been back.
So when you were 12, where did you move to?
Vancouver.
Okay. And then did you go to high school in Vancouver?
Yeah.
Okay.
I bounced around from school to school. My mother was a single mother, and she got educated, in her early 40s, and she was going, working her way up the ladder, and we went from Coquitlam to Burnaby. These are all suburbs of Vancouver. Mm-hmm. I think I went to 11 different schools by the time I graduated.
Wow, that's cool. So, so growing up there, what was your favorite thing about growing up there?
Remember in the summer biking on my little BMX bike everywhere, having friends close by, a tight-knit community. My family didn't have much money at all. So instead of having video games and lots of toys, I'd basically have a couple of sticks and be told to go play in the forest with them. So my friends for a long time were squirrels and wildlife. I remember going on long walks with my dad collecting antlers. I was actually in a even smaller town than Williams Lake. We were about 30 minutes outside of Williams Lake, 30-minute drive. We're between a town called 100 Mile House and then this like little village called 150 Mile House. So we were actually 140 Mile House.
Wow.
You won't find on the map. It was just one street. And so I remember how great it was actually to be in the wilderness and to be just enjoy my physical activities. I had to go get water from a well. I think I still have a scar from when I fell on a train track when I was 4 years old. So I definitely have a very poor upbringing, but as a kid, you just care about having friends to play with and being outside and enjoying yourself.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? So growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
That's really tough. I was a bit sheltered. I didn't get much TV or anything. I wish I had mentors, that might have really helped propel me, but then again, it might have made me more independent and able to fend for myself. So being a kid, figuring out what I'm going to do for entertainment and finding my own way, really at that age, I didn't have a lot of guidance. And I think that might have, retrospectively guided the way that I conduct business now, where everything is on my own. That might be a weakness, but it's a strength and a weakness because I am super resourceful and I don't have business partners where I'm sharing equity with, or I'm not being held up sometimes when, in processes or never ending meetings with partners, etc. So I think that's a big advantage, made me figure out how to do things. Um, but it was probably a disadvantage in the fact that I didn't really get started until my late 20s. Kind of had maybe a poverty mindset, thought, money is for the other people, or being your own boss is for other people, and it's not really a reality for me. And I had to get that out of my psychology, and that's probably the path that I took in my 20s, is to really start thinking for myself and to become more independent and believe what I am actually capable of, and that I don't have to watch other people lead, amazing lives, that I can actually do it myself.
Gotcha. So you went to a lot of schools growing up, it sounds like, right? Kind of a
Yeah.
large number. In high school, did you have a favorite subject?
It's writing. I was
Okay.
only thing I was really good at. I actually failed physical education, grade 9, and I failed in math in grade 10. I'm actually good at math. I just didn't really show up that much in high school. It's kind of a bit of a rebellious teenager.
So after high school, where do you go?
I went to film school
Okay.
in North Vancouver, Capilano Film School. I wanted to be an actor, and I was doing that for a year or two. I met a couple people in film school that were probably bad influences on me, and I was partying all the time. This was like age 19, 20, 21, partying all the time, smoking a lot of pot, playing a lot of video games, and just being super poor. I remember the hardest time, my rock bottom really was I had no money at all, and my roommate was eating pizza, and I was so hungry, and he actually gave me his pizza crusts, like slobber included, and that was my meal. And that period really, really taught me the value of a dollar, and really taught me how to be really smart with my money. So I would meticulously budget everything after I was finally able to get myself out of that situation, move back with my mom, and I went to college for journalism. That was the only subject I was good at, is writing
Mhm.
from high school. So my brother said, maybe you should get into journalism. And looked up how much journalists were being making, and I think it was around 35,000 a year at the time. I don't know what it is in today's dollars, maybe 45,000 or something, not very much. And I thought that was a ton of money compared to what
Mhm.
I was doing. So I moved back in with my mom. Just kind of kept my head down, and I didn't get into journalism school the first attempt because I just wasn't, I didn't have the ability to write in a way that they wanted. I was more of a creative writer, and I didn't really focus a lot in high school on writing. It just kind of happened to be something that I was not as bad at uh,
Mhm.
other subjects. And I didn't get in, and then so I thought, well, it's very painful to go back to where I was, so I got to forge forward and work really, really hard in order to develop the skills and maybe start believing in myself a little bit. I really had no confidence in my intellect at that point. I think the school system really beat me down, getting bad grades, teachers, making off the cuff comments like, maybe you have a learning disability or something like that. And I honestly, looking back, I was probably one of the more gifted people in high school. That it was just the system isn't really structured for people who might excel in different learning environments. And so it totally tore the confidence out of me in high school. And I think I just kind of had no choice but to give it a shot. And then I started realizing, I'm not so bad when I really dedicate myself to the learning. And so I put in the time to take some of the courses that were required in the journalism program. I got better and better, got better and better grades. And, after I saw, my first grade that was decent, I'm like, well, maybe I can actually do this.
Mhm.
And during that period, when I was in the first year of writing program at Langara College in Vancouver, my teacher said that, well, she gave me an F on an essay, And I said, "Are you sure about that?" Like, she's like, "Yeah, I thought actually an ESL student wrote this." ESL, I don't know if the terminology is the same in the US, but it's English as second language. She
Hmm.
actually thought I was a second language English speaker. And that was really discouraging. So it was again, this nightmare of getting these comments from teachers from high school, and she was my college prof. So that was discouraging, but I just kept going. I had no choice. I had to keep moving forward, and as painful as it was, as much as I doubted myself, I kept moving forward. And within 4 years after having that comment, I won a provincial writing award in Alberta for culture writing for a weekly newspaper, second
Hmm.
place in arts and culture writing. So I basically made a huge turn. And then after taking that first year of general courses, I applied again for the journalism program, and I got in this time. And by the time that program was over, it's a very difficult program to stay in. About half the people are kicked out before the end of the program because they don't keep their grades up. But I was one of the top students there. And by that time, my confidence was really high. And then I worked for a small town newspaper, Merritt, BC, which is about a 2.5 hour drive outside of Vancouver, and just worked really hard, continued to hone my skills. And my dream was always to work for, the Vancouver Sun or the Globe and Mail, or the provinces are the big newspapers in Canada. And while I was in Merritt, about 3 weeks into the job, my editor quit. So I was doing the whole newsroom by myself I was in my practicum. And at that same time, there was a triple homicide in Merritt. And that's a rare occurrence, but to have it happen, on your doorstep in a small town is very bizarre. But it gave me a big opportunity to get my writing on international attention because all the media outlets came and they wrote their stories, but I was the one on the ground there for afterwards when they found the murderer hidden in the woods. Alan Schoenborn, he's
Hmm.
the father of he committed triple homicide against his own kids.
Oof.
And so I was the one who got that story when it came out, and that gave me a connection with the Canadian press. And then after that, I was uncovering stories in Merritt and trying to find something where the other newspapers writing about mounds of dirt that have been there for 3 months and nobody got rid of. I was trying to dig into stuff that people would really hit hard and get international attention to help build my portfolio so that I could get to a newspaper like the Vancouver Sun. And I had several stories published nationally. And then I won that award after I'd moved to Alberta after about a year in Merritt. So I had a great portfolio. I was doing everything right, but the timing was really bad. This was in 2008, and the newspaper industry was dying out. There's only community newspapers left. Really, everything's going online. 75% of employees are being laid off. And so my chances of getting to a paper like the Vancouver Sun or even a decently sized city was very slim. And I spent 5 years bouncing around from newspaper to newspaper trying to find uh, happiness, trying to build my portfolio. I was away from my family. The dating community as a young man in these small towns is not very good as well. So I wasn't very happy about that. Um, so I thought, well, what can I do? And I put an ad up. I think my brother-in-law bought me a book for Christmas. I forget what it's called. It's something like the 4 Hour Work Week, but it wasn't the 4 Hour Work Week, something like that though. And it just kind of got me thinking, what could I do in order to make a business for myself? I started a pie business. I liked cooking, and scalability of that is really, really minor. So I started learning a little bit, okay, what should I be looking at when growing a business? And I really then started focusing on my skill as a writer, which is obvious. I don't know why I started with pies. People like the pies, but it doesn't make for a very profitable business if you're looking to, scale up. And so I marketed my writing abilities on Craigslist. And back then, Craigslist was super popular and it was free to advertise. So I just put up some ads. I was this poor journalist making less than the person working at Tim Hortons down the street was making. Tim Hortons is like Dunkin' Donuts. You might consider it in the US.
Hmm.
And working 60-hour weeks. And so I had no money to really start a business. And I actually was able to advertise for free on Craigslist. And sorry, one sec. Sweetie, no, go downstairs, please. I'm sorry, my daughter.
It's okay.
Go, please. I'm sorry. Um, I was able to advertise on Craigslist and then get some clients coming in and scaled that up. I was mostly doing academic writing because this is where most of the clients were coming from. So I
Mhm.
started writing essays and this and that for students. And then I logically it just started to progress. It was sort of common sense on how that progressed. I decided that I should have a website so I could market more. Then I
Mhm.
had so many clients that, okay, well, I guess I need to hire some writers. I can't clone myself. So I hired some writers.
Mhm.
And then I grew that to the point where it was automated.
Hmm.
Where I had a virtual assistant that I hired from the Philippines, where I had a team of 20, 30 writers, put up ads that were automated already, and had a developer. So everything was automated. Within 4 years, I decided to kind of take that framework since I wasn't really doing much. I was just making the money from that automated business. I took that framework of the website and decided to give my wife something to do. So I thought, well, she doesn't have any writing skills. She's not, she can't consult for psychology or, tell people's futures or anything like that. So what is the business that we could create that requires no skill? And that was a cleaning company.
Mhm.
And so I got the developer to put up a website for her for a cleaning company, uh, set her out on a marketing path. She started getting clients and we started to automate that business. And we grew that business to the point where was it then able to sell it. We also cloned that business and created a handyman business, sold that one as well. And then from there, I transitioned from just normal writing and document preparation to immigration consulting. And that's where my focus is now because I had to make a big shift in the type of writing I'm doing because of AI, ChatGPT. We saw our client base drop significantly. We were doing business plans, website content, the academic stuff, and we didn't really have a client base anymore because everybody is going to ChatGPT. So
Hmm.
about 5 years ago, even before ChatGPT, I got into business consulting. And then when that ChatGPT came around, we really had to focus our work on that. And that's what we've built over the past couple years, to the point where now that's our main focus.
So so that class that you took where you got the F on the essay, what was your grade at the end of that class?
Barely passing, like a C minus or something like that.
But you did pass.
I did pass. I didn't feel anything in college.
And you did take the F to a C minus or whatever that grade was.
Yeah.
So you turned a no into a yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good job. Good job. So you get into business consulting. What was what was the most important thing you learned starting your business consulting business?
Well, with the business consulting one, that was more business plans and pitch decks, and we attempted to get funding and various things like that. The thing that I learned most about doing that is that you need to be able to pivot is more of like when that stopped working,
Mhm.
when business plans and pitch decks and website content stopped working. I learned that yeah, you need to pivot in order to adjust with the times,
Mhm.
like uh, AI. So that's when we started focusing in on immigration consulting because the processes with immigration consulting are much more complex and requires filling out forms, knowing where to go and what to do and how to get approval. And myself, I actually also not immigrated, but I was living in the United States for 3 years
Mhm.
on an E2 visa as a treaty investor. So that really taught me the ins and outs of the visa system as well. And so I was able to leverage my knowledge there in order to create the immigration consulting business. And I learned that having higher ticket offers in your business, it's a higher ticket item to get immigration consulting than, say, a business plan or something like that. This really, really opens you up to more marketing opportunity
Mhm.
because there might be a higher cost per click, but you're able to spend a lot more in order to acquire the client. So it's sort of obvious, but if you find the market gap and then there's a high cost in order for a client to pay, so the lifetime value of the client is high in comparison to something smaller, you're able to spend a ton more on marketing and still make a profit, and that's really important. Even if you get one client, that might take care of your marketing costs for 1 month. So it really is a huge advantage to focus in on the high ticket items and finding a market gap in the system. And then also, if you're doing something that's quite a lot more complicated than the average person can do, like, everybody can open a Shopify store. So there's a ton of competition. It'd be
Right.
really difficult to make that successful, or advertising on Amazon. You have to help bid the person who's been doing it for a decade and who's got a very um, low cost per click. They're ranking high as well. So if you have a complicated niche and you become an expert on that, you dedicate that time, whether it's a year or 2 years, to becoming the best at that,
Mhm.
your competition is going to be so low. So that's why the immigration consulting thing started to work for us.
Can we go back for a second? You mentioned something about a treaty visa, I think, or treaty investor. What is that? So let's go back. So you ended up in the US on a visa, is what you were saying, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you were in the US with a under a visa, and it was a treaty investor visa. So number one, what was it that motivated you to come to the US? And number two, where did you go? And where were you for those 3 years that you were here?
Yeah, what motivated me was I was married at the time, and my wife at the time really wanted to go to the US. That
Okay.
was um, we separated early on in that, but I wanted my daughter to be close to her mother.
Mhm.
My daughter is with me 6 of the 7 days, and
Mhm.
usually more than that, actually. And then there's been months where she's just with me, but I wanted her to be close to her mother. But
Where's your
also,
mother located?
her mother now is located in Vancouver,
Okay.
and I am as well.
But at the
Um,
time, was she in the US?
she was in the US. Yeah.
Okay.
We kind of we were trying to decide where exactly to go.
Gotcha.
So we went to Dallas first, just kind of as a vantage point to explore other areas to decide where we wanted to settle.
Sure.
And by the end of that year-long process, we ended up in Miami. And actually, I just moved from Miami at the end of November to come back to Vancouver because I needed to focus on growing my business more and being a single dad. And doing that was becoming a problem.
Yeah.
And then also, I wanted my girl to be close to her family, and her mother left as well. So having that one day where I could rest and recoup and recharge, catch up on work if I had to, was super valuable. So when I didn't have that, then that made me ask myself a lot of questions about whether I really should be that far away from family, especially now my daughter's 5 years old.
Mhm.
She's more social and she wants to be close to her cousins and her grandma
Mhm.
and auntie. So that's why we came back. Another reason why I wanted to go to the US is because I was really cold in Canada. I mean, as funny as that kind of sounds, but the weather is a big component of, your general happiness. And
Mhm.
um, I think, though, at least for now, I really don't mind the fact that it's winter here. It's kind of refreshing after being in the hot Miami heat for so
Yeah.
long. And Dallas as well. It's so hot in the summer.
Yeah.
So, and real estate prices as well was another motivating factor. It's really difficult for people of my generation and younger to actually stay in Vancouver unless
Mhm.
you got parents who give you a home, or you get an inheritance, or most of the people who buy homes here right now are from China. They have
Mhm.
wealthier people from abroad, and so to be a person who's born and raised here and to stay here, it's super rare. So I
Mhm.
went to Florida thinking, well, the prices in Florida are amazing. This was back in 2021 or so, and I,
Mhm.
I started the immigration or the new residency process. It's not really immigration.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating.
It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.